experience. Oh, there we are.
It's
Okay.
a dark day.
We're having all kinds of technical difficulties today, but at least we got the phones working, barely. I'm your host, Russell Glasser, and this is the Atheist Experience, and this is Don Baker.
Hey, good to be here.
Hey, and it's July 26, 2015, and I may have to repeat that date a few times because apparently I might have to say the phone number out loud. I'm not sure. Anyway, we're having graphics issues, and but we're a public live call-in show based in Austin, Texas, dedicated to promoting positive atheism and the separation of church and state. We're available at ustream.tv. The official Atheist Experience website is atheist-experience.com. You can provide feedback by commenting on the official show blog, freethoughtblogs.com/AXP, or you can email us at tv@atheist-community.org. And if you enjoy this show, you should totally check out The Nonprofits, which is airing on the first and third Wednesdays of each month. My mouth is also having technical difficulties today. You can find links on the Atheist Experience website, and the next Nonprofits will be recorded live on August 5th. And, as always, the cast and crew of the Atheist Experience will be going to dinner after the show at El Arroyo, 1624 West 5th Street, arriving around 6 p.m. Now, I've got a couple of announcements to make. First of all, if you're in the St. Louis area, the Gateway to Reason conference is going to be next weekend. Matt and Tracy and I are going to be flying out super early this Friday morning and going to touch down in St. Louis in time to get to my talk at the Gateway to Reason conference 3 p.m. And Matt is going to be speaking later in the day, and Tracy is going to be speaking on Sunday, and there's going to be a lot of other great people. See you there. That means none of us will be available to host the show, and actually the show's a little bit up in the air for next week because we've got various issues, including the studio shutting down for a couple of months to do some kind of work. There may or may not be a show next week, and if there is, it will not air on Channel Austin's website. It will be on the usual Ustream channel. Also, we're not sure how we're going to take calls. We're going to try to stream this live if we're ready out of the ACA building. That doesn't mean it's a permanent arrangement, but that should be the way we handle things for the next few months. We don't have the phone number for you quite yet, but watch the official Atheist Experience blog and the Facebook page and keep an eye out, and you might get to see some special guests who don't usually host the show if we're on next week. Also, if you're planning to go to dinner next week, you should definitely watch the show because it's not near El Arroyo. Got all that? But this week, we're definitely going to El Arroyo, and people are welcome to join us around 6. And Don's here.
Yeah, hi.
How are you, Don?
Just fine, just fine. So since we've got a black theme going, I thought I'd go with a topic that goes with that somehow.
Yep.
Or actually, I'm rationalizing it.
Is it possible to display the phone number, or should I repeat it one more time before Don starts?
We'll show it.
Okay.
Good
Thanks.
deal. So I've done a long series of failure shows. I have another one, number 32, Murderers and Thugs. And I watched a Frontline documentary on El Chapo, the leader of the Sinaloa cartel. And imagine you're part of that organization. It's a well-established drug cartel. It's got a hidden and mysterious leader that controls all. He's aware of all that's going on in his business and protects his territory. Those that know him fear and respect him. He'll reward you if you're good and kill you if you're bad, to him. And nearly all tasks are done by deputies and their henchmen. So they're out doing all that. And there's a whole bunch of different people involved in this besides El Chapo. There's a whole bunch of innocents down at the bottom who are hooked into it when they're vulnerable. They might be born into it or entrapped or can't or won't think for themselves. There is another group of people that work for the system to advance their own selves. They make money. They have some power, have some hookers or whatever. I don't know, hookers and blow. I don't know. And there's another category of folks that just like violence, that are just there because, hey, this is a great place to be. So is there harm? Yes, and it's mostly harm to outsiders or people that want to muck with this, or the law enforcement or with these sorts of things, those that aren't bought off or whatever. So let's compare this with Abrahamic religions. And this is an apt analogy, as more than a few folks have made the idea that religion is the opiate of the masses. And the Abrahamic religions include Islam, Christianity, and Judaism. And so you can even think of it as a conglomerate with different sub-companies. And there's this hidden and mysterious leader, Allah, Yahweh God, who controls all. Those that know him fear him and respect him. Deputies monitor and protect the territory and follow orders. Down the hierarchy, rewards and punishments are there for fealty or not. And God loves murder, apparently. I'm going to expand on that in a minute. And his henchmen are happy to carry out those orders. Well, is there harm here? Yes. And also mostly to outsiders, but less harm than you might think. And I'm trying to explain that today. And we'll talk about the types of people also today. So God loves murder. I've called the Bible a genocide manual. The Torah and the Quran are too. And when I say God, I sort of mean the God of all these religions. And if you flip through the Bible, God's most common interaction with people is killing them. And the second most common interaction is ordering his followers to kill people. So God really loves murder. I mean, it's not a big surprise here. He kills when he's mad. He kills when he's jealous. He kills out of vengeance. He kills out of love. In John 3:16, for God so loved the world that he gave his only Son, that whoever believes in him shall not perish, but shall have eternal life. He murdered his son, which is kind of reprehensible to me, and then blamed the Jews so that they would be murdered. They could be murdered with impunity. Matthew 27:25, if you want to go look that up. And most Christians await the end times with bated breath, when God will murder nearly everybody else except the true believers. So murder, 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 murder. So you would think that Abrahamic believers should be murder bots. You combine God's love with murder, with many holy reasons to murder. We got holy wars, witchcraft, Jews, infidelity, sexual deviance, apostasy, vengeance, etc., etc. And God allegedly created humans in God's image, that is, mass murderers, presumably, right? And believers think that God is the author of morality and that everything God does is awesome. And believers want to please God for the rewards of afterlife and all that.
Aside, have you seen the movie Frailty?
No,
Oh, you want to check it out.
Okay.
It's got Bill Paxton as a guy who hears a voice from God, and he's like, and God led me to this place, and he showed me these holy objects, and it's like an axe and stuff. Mm-hmm. And he takes his two young sons and to slay demons in human form. It's a very disturbing movie, but really interesting.
Okay. So it's like that Andrea Yates, maybe, huh?
Yeah, something.
Okay. So given all this murder and all this reason for murder and all this association with God and all this stuff, you'd think that believers would be killing all the time, and many of them are. There's the ISIS folks that are out murdering and raping, and it's all pillaging and it's all God endorsed if you talk to them. And even Americans are going to jump on the bandwagon so that they can go do that stuff. There's killing cartoonists that has happened for drawing pictures of Muhammad. How terrible. There's the Ugandan gay murder laws. Thank you to U.S. Christians for that. People are still killed as witches due to the Christian religion, and especially in Africa. And the Middle East is almost synonymous with sectarian violence. That's one of the first associations I have with the Middle East these days. But there's a lot of ambivalence to violence. There's lots of reasons to kill and lots of ready killers in these religions, but it's bad for the image, which hurts recruiting. So you can't sell your product if you're killing people. And modern societies won't tolerate much violence. So, and it's genuinely hard to reconcile the antiquated morals of the Bible with modern civilization. So that's one of the challenges. And But the urge is always there. Religions set up a conflict of interest between pleasing God and being good to your fellow man. Those two things are different, and there's a problem there. And this is why religions are necessarily evil, and they have to sort of sweep that under the rug or market around it or do these sorts of things. It's always there. So let's talk about the people involved. There is the ignorant, those that are hooked into the business or hooked into the religion when they were vulnerable, often through indoctrination of the young. Their ignorance is prized and maintained. I've talked about this. And these folks are happy to be murderers, but only if it's part of a fad, right? Only if we're out killing all the witches this century, or we're out killing the Jews because of some thing that you're up against. There's another group called the con artists, who I would call the con artists, and these are the folks that are using the ignorance for their own ends. These include the power-hungry religious leaders, politicians, and demagogues. We've got lots of those running around. And they're happy to foment violence, but only if it increases their power and wealth. So right now, that's being quashed down in the United States. And then we have the sociopaths, the third group, who are looking for an outlet. And these folks are happy to suck up to power to find a purpose for their base nature, and they're looking for excuses to murder and be jerks. And I think the religions attract these folks. And I think that the sociopaths is sort of part and parcel of religions, and even though they don't want to admit that.
Right. I think I've said a few times before that it takes a certain cross-section of different circumstances to get somebody to murder somebody. Certainly lots of people hear religious preaching that teaches hate like that, and does not go and become a murderer. And lots of people may have mental disorders that would make them inclined to, if they're sociopaths, they might not care if they kill somebody, but a lot of them manage to restrain themselves out of self-interest. But when you have a confluence of ideology combined with mental disposition, the ability to kill somebody sort of gets amplified through this sort of divisive dogma where people are telling you that there are some people who are less fundamentally good as humans than others.
Right. And I'm going to freely admit here that there's less killing than we would expect, given all the things stacked in the way of killing in the Bible and all that. So these religions are doing less harm than we expect, and I think the answer is that secular morality is keeping religions in check. Generally, the more secular a believer is, the less likely they are to follow the edicts of their genocide manuals, and they're willing to skip over those and ignore them and pretend they're not there. And the demagogues and sociopaths are kept in check by secular laws and secular culture. And that's what's winning, and that's what's preventing all this, in my opinion. And it's almost like homeopathy. The more diluted the religion is, the better it is. So maybe we need a completely pure.
You said diluted, not deluded, right?
Diluted, right?
Yeah.
Right, diluted.
They sound similar.
So recently we've had the Supreme Court ruling on same-sex marriage, and I can explain a lot of what's going on now, given this background. We have conservative Christians have their pennies in a bunch about the fact that gays are getting married, and they want the religious freedom in quotes, to persecute and discriminate against gays. And they're particularly concerned about florists and cake bakers and county clerks, because these are the the vanguard of Christianity or something. I don't know.
I think there was like an Onion article or something that was like, or I don't know if it was an Onion article, but it was something that said something like, stop picking on florists. They're not all homophobes, or something like that.
Right. Jon Stewart had a few funny digs
Yeah,
there
I think
too.
it might have been The Daily Show.
So with the same-sex marriage, let's be clear here. The Bible says that followers are supposed to murder gays. Okay, let's just be real honest here. This is Leviticus 20:13, if you want to look it up. And so this begs the question of why don't Christians follow their God? If they're following their God and their edicts and all the things they claim to believe, they should be out there murdering. And in reality, they're just kind of wimps who lack the courage of their convictions. And why should they get any public support or consideration? Why should we give them tax breaks for not following their religion? And I think the answer is they just want a free pass to be a thug. That's all it is. And they feel persecuted because that free pass to being a thug is being taken away from them. And I feel so sorry for them. And you know, the answer here is not to give them more rights and such. The answer is to force them to embrace their genocide manual and make them demand that they you know, want to be murderers and such. And we'll deal with that appropriately according to our secular laws and culture. We'll shun them and we'll put them in jail. So in conclusion, God is a great excuse to murder and be a thug but only if it's socially acceptable. And Abrahamic religions are honeypots for those that want to do so. With respect to murder and thuggery, these religions are more moral exactly when they're more secular, and that's a good thing. And this is a failure of Christianity and all the Abrahamic religions. Mm-hmm. So let's take some calls.
Okay. We're going to start with Noah in Illinois.
Hi, can you guys hear me?
Hi, yes.
Hi, this is Russell and Don, right?
That's
yes,
correct.
Yes, I just wanted to first say, you know, thank you so much for the show. I really love it. And thanks for letting me be on today.
What do you got for us?
Thanks for calling. What's up?
So I've been trying to call in the last couple of weeks, and this is my first opportunity. I wanted to talk about why, or get your guys' opinion on why you think there is so much misunderstanding and mistrust of science when all the evidence and the progress that we've made in the past hundreds of years point in the completely opposite direction.
Well, I have an answer for you. It is A, because science is hard to understand and requires a lot of study, and B, there are some people who have a vested interest in bad-mouthing science.
And C,
yes?
And C, science changes all the time, and it's work to keep up with it. And folks tend to think that, oh, it's going to change its mind completely and be different tomorrow, so why should I trust it? But in actuality, it's honing in on the truth and adding nuance to what we've learned before, and that's a difficult concept, I think, for a lot of folks who want black and white truth.
Right, and also teaching science is a challenge and requires very highly educated and well-spoken people to teach it, and I think the teaching profession is not given the prestige that it deserves, and so a lot of people who wind up teaching science may themselves be the product of poor science education and propagate misunderstanding.
Yeah, I totally agree with everything, and I think, like you said, one of the most important things is education. Just what kind of strikes me is I work in physics. I'm an undergrad, and so I've just been doing research for the past couple of years, but, I'm getting kind of an inside look at how things go. And I think if people saw what actually goes into, a scientific theory, the whole process, hypothesis, testing, independent observation, drawing conclusions, peer-reviewed papers, they would really think differently. And I don't know if I could just give you guys a couple examples for a couple minutes. Would that be okay?
Well, it's a bit off topic. I mean, we agree with you as far as, it's important and it's the best tool we have to understand the truth and to learn the truth of things. I think if we're going to delve into the science lessons and such, that might be too much for a call.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if we want to get that deep into education strategy. I mean, it's an interesting topic, but it's not the main topic of the show.
Yeah, that's totally fine.
Okay. But
all right, thank you very much.
I agree with you.
Yeah, thanks a lot.
Thanks a lot, Noah.
Bye.
Bye. What shows are good for people who are interested in learning science? I think Skeptic's Guide to the Universe has a lot of science stuff.
I like Nova on PBS.
Oh, yeah, and also Cosmos.
Oh yeah, that's an awesome show.
You know, Neil
Both the
deGrasse
old one and the
Tyson.
new one. Yeah.
Yes, both of them. Are they both available on streaming Netflix? I know the new one is. Anyway, also Bill Nye the Science Guy is now available on streaming Netflix. I'm not getting any money for plugging that, but I love those shows.
Yep. Good stuff.
Javier in Laredo, how are you?
Hi, can you hear me?
Hi.
Yeah, what's up?
Yes.
I originally had convinced someone to call in, but I guess he got too busy, so I just kind of wanted to call on his behalf and see if I could throw you a comment that he gave to me during a comment exchange on Facebook.
So let me guess, you're an atheist and he's a believer, and you wanna kind of argue his point so you can hear what we would say? Is that the kind of where we're going? Okay.
Yeah,
sure, go for
I was
it.
put into a group online for something called like Knowledge of God.
Oh.
And out of all of the believers, he seemed one who was willing to, because he actually said he was going to watch the show and call in, but I guess he wasn't able to today.
Okay. It's, by the way, people, public service announcement, it's very rude to add people to Facebook groups without their permission.
Yeah.
Anyway.
It's a whole etiquette there that I've just lost.
Go ahead.
All right, so his question kind of pertained to philosophy, and he said, the existence of God is not a scientific question because science restricts itself to searching for natural explanations of observed phenomena. Since God is a transcendent being who exists beyond space and time, the search for God must primarily use philosophy or careful reasoning and not science, even though science provides facts which can be used in philosophical arguments for and against the existence of God.
Okay. So he's wrong. Science isn't committed to necessarily finding natural explanations. It's just that natural explanations happen to be the kind of explanations that can be investigated and demonstrated. And if he wants you to accept this supernatural thing that he's pulled out of his ass, then he should be able to propose to you a way to demonstrate that it's true. Because if he's not going to give you a way to tell the difference between true things and false things, you could believe any old nonsense. I mean, why would, you know, if faith is his best reason he's got for believing in God, then why not have faith in becoming a Mormon or a
Raelian
Muslim,
or who knows
yeah,
what.
or
right.
a Scientologist or whatever.
Right.
I mean, these guys all want special treatment so that you can grant them free belief without them measuring up to any standards. And that's what con men do.
Yeah. Tracy put it really well. You know, there's this distinction. If God manifests in this universe, then we have the ability to study God and learn and understand it through science even. But if God doesn't manifest, then he's kind of irrelevant. And it's just a kind of somebody trying to define him into existence. And if he's not relevant, then if he doesn't manifest, he's not relevant, why should we care about it?
Right. I mean, so my approach in this situation would maybe be something like, okay, I accept that your God can't be scientifically demonstrated. Now, what reason do you have that I should believe it, you know, that he is plausible? And if they start throwing faith and stuff at you or just asking for special permission to get free belief, then you're free to make up any other kind of nonsense, like Martin's favorite example, Gus the cosmic hippo, right? And say, well, why don't you believe in that?
Yeah.
That's a good point. I did respond to it like from the information I've garnered through watching your show for years, and I kind of got where he was coming from, where he said, you know, we kind of don't really know if there's such a thing as outside the universe, if that's even possible. We don't know if the universe is eternal or if it came into being. So I guess he kind of saw the limit of science and said, well, now we need to use philosophy or metaphysics to like see if God exists.
Yeah, but again, philosophy doesn't mean making shit up.
Yeah.
Right.
And philosophy doesn't have any special knowledge of the origin of the universe. So it's like the wrong tool.
Right. Also, most philosophers are atheists. There are statistics out there. I mean, it's big. It's a big majority.
Well, we aren't.
I believe it was 70% from that Sean Carl and William Lane Craig debate. Sorry.
Yeah, probably something like that.
Yeah. Well, thank you. Like, that was a good point where you basically said, well, how would you know if your God exists? It just seems like he believed in first, and he's kind of retroactively trying to lead the evidence to the conclusion that he already drew.
That's very common.
Right. He's just trying to ask you to be gullible and buy his product without test driving it.
All right. Well, thank you.
Thank you, Javier.
All right. Thanks for calling.
Bye.
Bye. Sara in Orange County.
Yes. Hey, guys.
Hey.
I was actually looking for some advice about something. I'm an atheist, and I've noticed a trend happening specifically on social media in the last couple of years where retail brands that are on social media, obviously to promote their goods, whether they be indie brands or larger, corporately owned brands, I've noticed that in between, posting photos of their latest products, they will post Christian-based kind of inspirational quotes and, photos of a sunset with some kind of superimposed quote from the Bible, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
And it just seems to be more prevalent in basically the circles I run in. And I'm looking for some advice about how to thoughtfully or meaningfully express to the brands that I follow and actually like that this isn't acceptable to me, that it's offensive to me, and it's excluding a portion of the population that's just innocently trying to follow them and purchase what they have to offer. Because I've noticed that some people may put just like a thumbs down emoji comment or something like that, and I know that's not really doing anything to help our cause.
Well, I think the main question is, do you like these products so much that you wouldn't be willing to stop buying them?
For the most part, no. There's plenty of brands that I've unfollowed because of them. But there are some.
Yeah, the thumbs down is less effective than a thoughtful, non-combative letter saying, "Hey, I liked your product, but I'm going to buy product Y instead because I do not like you sort of injecting religious messages into into my Facebook feed. So see ya." And they may just say goodbye, in which case you'll switch to the other brand, which hopefully doesn't do that. Or, companies care about their bottom line, and if enough people write to them and this seems to be a trending problem, then they might do something about it.
Yeah, and I think what's going on is that a lot of companies are trying to figure out how to use social media to advance their companies and to make money and these sorts of things. And so it's a bit of the Wild West right now. I think that they're out trying various things, and eventually they'll figure out something that works and kind of makes a happy medium. So, your comments probably will be paid attention to by the people who are promoting these things, and you might end up having an impact there, but I agree with Russell as far as having a thoughtful comment rather than a flip thing, because that might be something that actually strikes a nerve.
Right. Having a thoughtful comment and be willing to follow through with your dollars to make sure that they know for real that the advertising has a negative impact.
Right. I also wanted to ask if you've noticed this trend also in social media, and maybe why.
I haven't, but I'm not in there a lot.
I don't follow brands. Like, I think it's their job to advertise to me. I'm not doing their work for them. So maybe you should find. Maybe you should find
teenagers are big into that, and I was like, I don't get it. I'm too old, I guess. So I don't know.
Maybe
Okay,
you should
point
find
taken.
some people that you can follow who have opinions you like and just buy their stuff and use it. I don't know.
Right. Okay.
Step away from the computer.
Okay. All right.
All right.
Okay. Thanks, guys.
Thanks, Sarah.
Thanks for calling. Bye. David in Halifax.
Hey, how you doing?
Good. How are you?
Oh, pretty good. It's Russell and Dawn, right?
That's right.
Cool. So yeah, I was calling in to ask a question about your opinion on faith healing and sort of the kind of like placebo effect or the relation to something like hypnosis that kind of seems to go on.
The placebo effect is real. Faith healing is not.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Do you guys, are you skeptical of like something like hypnotism, or do you think that that's just a different category of
Yeah,
placebo?
I mean, I'm not an expert on this thing, but I'm pretty sure that there is not that. I mean, like, people can be hypnotized to the extent that they can be persuaded to do something that they wouldn't normally do, but they kind of have to be willing. And I think that the media has kind of hyped up hypnosis as something with incredible powers that it doesn't really have. So it depends on what you mean.
Well, I mean, like as somebody who does hypnosis sometimes,
Okay.
I would agree with you that the media hypes it up to do things that it doesn't do. I would consider it sort of an honest placebo in the sense that it's guiding someone's beliefs.
Okay, like what kind of thing would you expect to be able to make people do with hypnosis, or what's your purpose?
Well, I mean, I started out doing magic and mentalism.
Oh,
years
okay.
ago,
So it's you know, showmanship.
a lot of the time. Although, I mean, I've also since then worked with people on things like working on phobias or things of that nature, and seen really good results for people getting over problems.
Yeah, I mean, I would be really wary. I mean, if you were to make a claim like that to me in the process of advertising your services, I would have to treat that claim like I would treat any other form of alternative medicine, which is there's a lot of, like, when you're sick, you tend to get better over time with or without treatment. And so there's a lot of stuff. There's a lot of claims that alternative medicines make when they don't have to submit to the to scientific testing that they can get away with because nobody is really holding them accountable for claiming credit for things that they didn't really do. So
No, I agree.
yeah,
There's a lot of like missing checks and balances in most of those fields, particularly new agey stuff.
yeah.
that
I would
most,
say
you know.
that if you're gonna do the, I don't know, are you doing this for money?
No, not typically. I
Okay.
mostly used to do this years ago.
I would super recommend that you read some books on psychology more than focus on the hypnosis stuff. That's just me.
I have read lots.
Okay.
But it's an interesting topic. Like, are you familiar with Darren Brown?
Yeah, a little bit. Matt would be way more. He's a lot more interested in particular magicians.
Yeah, I thought he was going to be in today, actually. But
Oh well.
It was a last minute switch.
Yeah, he's not feeling well.
Okay. Yeah, no, Darren's actually done a few specials specifically on faith healing and belief and stuff like that. One was called Miracles for Sale, I think.
Right.
And it was a really kind of good view of how persuadable people are and how some of the simpler tricks people seem to fall for again and again,
sure.
and then kind of attribute it to religion.
Right.
So, like, what would you say is something that would be a good approach to dealing with things that do that? Like, I mean, there doesn't seem to be any laws in the U.S. that I know of that like really prevents people from making these claims and like taking advantage of people and taking their money. But I know in some places, like for fake mediumship, you can be arrested. You know.
Yeah. No. I mean, there aren't really. You can, like, the only thing you can really do is appeal to people on an individual basis to be skeptical and not fall for stuff. And I mean, that may not be terribly large scale, but every little bit helps. I don't know. Don, what do you?
Yeah, I mean, you could you know, lobby with your elected representatives, you know, and see what you can do there. Try for getting more strict standards and such. Here in the U.S., I don't know. The Congress is so gridlocked. Nothing like that is probably going to happen in the near future. But maybe in Canada, there.
Yeah, it's a fact of life that people fall for stuff. And there's a lot of stuff out there to fall for. And we're here on TV to talk about religion all the time because that is one particular cause that we are interested in getting people to be more skeptical about as a way of improving the overall skepticism and quality of our society. Yeah. Obviously, if we had a way to shut down people for lying about their religion, we would be pursuing something like that. But we don't, and so we're just some people talking about an unpopular topic on a TV show, which is basically the same kind of thing you're trying to do with huckster claims of other kinds.
And like, there's a lot of cross-fertilization between atheism and skepticism and you know, going after quack medicine and these sorts of things. And
do you think, though, that, like, I know that the U.S. has sort of like a separation of church and state built into the law.
That's the theory, anyway.
That's something that they would be able to, like, outlaw and say, like, hey, you can't make these claims that you're doing these things.
I don't
or
think...
does that sort of, like, fall under the freedom of speech?
Yeah, it would be hard to get a law like that passed. And I'm not even sure that it necessarily should be passed if it was unless it was very carefully worded. Like a couple of weeks ago, a guy called in and he was talking about trying to get laws passed that would prevent parents from indoctrinating their children with religion. And I was really skeptical of that being a good idea because the thing you have to realize is that if you allow people to make laws to prevent certain ideologies from being propagated, the first people that's going to be turned on is atheists. So unless you're really careful, you don't necessarily want your lawmakers making a judgment call about something really subjective. Because they're not going to be as skeptical as you are.
Or meddling too much. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
True that. All right. Yeah, that's just what I wanted to ask you about. I'm sure that, like you said, Matt probably has more background on those topics, but it was interesting hearing your perspective.
Yeah. Well, thanks for calling.
Yeah. You can try back again later.
Yeah, I may do that.
All right. Thank you.
Okay.
Bye.
If you're just tuning in, or if you tuned in after the initial announcements, I thought I'd repeat the fact that there may or may not be a show next week. It's not going to be on Channel Austin. It will, if it airs, be on Ustream. It will not be the usual call-in number, so you should watch the show for the number and/or keep an eye on the blog and the Atheist Community of Austin's Facebook page. And if there is dinner next week, then it probably won't be at El Arroyo. So stay tuned for updates. Who have we got next? Joseph in the Cayman Islands.
Yes, hello.
Hello.
Hey, welcome.
Hi, how are you?
Good.
Okay. First off, I'm gonna tell you something. I'm from Colombia, and I have some accent. So
it's wonderful.
Sorry for that. Okay. Just wanted to talk about my experience as an atheist. I just recently made it public to my friends and some of my family that I'm an athist, right?
Well, congratulations.
I grew up as a Catholic, and growing up in that church, they take you through some process of learning, right? Of what God wants from you and everything.
Catechism, right?
And what was catechism. Yeah. What was funny for me is when I turned 12 years old, they kind of gave me this book that tells you all about the Ten Commandments and all these things that God commands, right? You should do. And then at the end, they are very specific. They are like, I am your God. You shouldn't call my name in vain, and you should honor your mom and your God and your dad. And then at the end tells you where to look in the Bible. But my brain always worked like real fast, so I went to the Bible to see what was going on, if it was true or not, right? And I found like they were kind of lying to me. But I mean, they give you like really short versions of what the commandments are in the Bible, right?
Yes.
And then how was written in the Bible is different. So I was like, wait a second, why would these people want to lie to me, right?
And the Catholic Bible is different than the Protestant Bible.
You realize, right? We're humans, right? We're humans, and people tend to try to control other people, right? So I realized that every religion, every book is written by people, right? To control other people. That's all it is about. Control minds, control people, time, control. Having power over other people.
Yeah, that's a big part of it for sure.
So how did your family react when you told them that you were an atheist?
Oh yeah, they kind of knew, because I've been jumping from religion to religion. I've been like almost I can tell like 5% of all of them. Or I don't know if that number is accurate, but trust me, I've been into many religions.
So they think this is just a fad for you, that you're going to be something else tomorrow.
Yeah, no. I know for sure. when you take this step, there's no coming back. Yeah. So
does that mean that
what I'm saying is they kind of knew I was going to end like how I am right now, because my brain works real fast. I always ask questions. I don't like to stay with just whatever people say. I like to have proof of whatever is written or whatever people say.
So were they okay with it, or just resigned, or what?
I care a little. I don't really care.
Okay.
I don't care. Right, so that
helps.
That's my experience, and that I mean, the Bible is a book. That's how you have to take it. Let's say, for example, right now you have books about Superman, right? And some of my friends, they are like, you have to trust the Bible because it's very old. The fact that the book is old it only makes it an old book. It's not, right? That's all it is, an old book. In 2,000 years from now, the books about Superman, they're going to be old. So what do you think is going to happen? Is the people going to trust that there's a flying man in the sky dressing with his underwear outside? Outside?
Hey.
Yeah.
He's there.
We know this stuff. I'm really happy for you that you've decided to join us. I think we're going to move on to other callers right now. Or did you have anything?
No, that's fine. Thank you for your call,
Thank you for calling,
Joseph.
yeah. Rob in Amsterdam?
Hi, yes.
Hello.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Hi. So I just have a quick question, and I guess it's kind of personal anyway, or they all differ per person. But so my question is there anything you guys believe in that you know can't be real, or you know is bogus, but for some reason you stick to anyway? You know, something you can't prove really exists or anything, but...
Do I consciously hold beliefs that I know are wrong or very wrong?
Well,
no.
Well, not so much wrong, but you know. I guess love is kind of one of those things, but I guess you could somehow.
Why would I think that love
but
can't be real?
Well, no, but that's a bad example of it. But you know, if there's anything like that,
there's a wonderful quote by Mark Twain that said, "Faith is believing what you know ain't true or ain't so," and that's what that reminds me of. You know, there was a time when I had some wishful thinking that there might be a notion of a soul that lived on, but over time I let that go. You know, I think that those sorts of beliefs are liabilities. They're things that you should get rid of. They are baggage that can only harm you and can only slow you down, and you're better off knowing and dealing with the world as it really is, and you know, let that stuff go. So I actively try to purge those sorts of beliefs, and you know, stick with reality, because it's a pretty solid thing.
What Don said.
Yeah, no, I guess a better example would be, you know, if some family member died, somehow you'd think they're in some other place, even though you know it.
Yeah, it's a wishful thinking thing.
Wishful thinking, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah, I prefer to be a realist. I think that it would be nice if the family member was still alive, but I do not assume that they are just because thinking that would make me feel better. In general,
No.
I agree with what Matt always says, which is I want to believe as many true things and as few false things as possible. It doesn't mean that I've lived up to that goal. I probably believe a lot of false things, but nothing that I know can't be true.
Yeah. Okay. If there's time, I'd like to ask you one more thing, if that's cool.
Sure.
Sure.
So about a month ago, some of these Jehovah's Witnesses came to my door, and I always like it when they come around, because I feel like you can have a nice little conversation with them and
they're
see what
fun.
It's fun, yeah. The only problem I found is, you know, I try to make it seem like they believe in nonsense, talking snakes and all this, but they say, well, God can do anything, so. You know, so then it doesn't matter what you throw at them, because God can do anything. Mm-hmm. How do you deal with that argument?
You know, when they come to my door, I generally shoo them away, because it's often
then he's
inconvenient
asking me.
time.
I invite them in.
Yeah, but I have been thinking that the next time they come, I'm going to hit them with what number are you? There's only supposed to be 144,000 people in heaven, and what's your number? You know, and give them a little grief about well, if you don't know your number, how do you know you're going to get in? And gosh, if you recruit more people, aren't you just diluting your chances of winning this lottery? And and I'll gladly join your religion if I can have your minister's number, if his spot.
I think to answer the question that you had, which is what do you say if people are just falling back on, well, God can do anything, is basically, it's nice for you that you believe that. I don't believe in fairy tales. Or something slightly more polite, but they're trying to convince you that this God exists, and so it's their job. You know, they can't just keep repeating that God can do anything.
Right.
Because you can just say, well, I don't believe that.
Or God, you could respond, God could convert me right now, but
yes,
apparently
he can't do anything.
Anyway, yeah, it's such BS that it's hard to respond to it sometimes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Unfortunately.
That's just the way it is.
Yeah.
You probably will not change the Jehovah's Witnesses' minds at your door.
No, I have no intention. But it'd be nice to corner them on something. But the numbers thing is good, though. I'll definitely use that next time.
All right.
Okay. Good luck.
Good luck to you.
Let us know how it goes.
Thanks for having me.
See ya. Simone in Sacramento.
Hi there.
Hi.
Thank you so much for taking my call.
Sure
I just discovered you all about a week and a half ago, and I've been binge watching you all like I did Breaking Bad about 6 months ago. I can't stop watching.
It's a commitment to do that. We have a lot of video.
Yes, and
yes.
I
am the one who knocks.
Yeah, I really appreciate everything you guys are doing to try to enlighten people. The one thing I kind of wanted to talk about, and I don't it sounds like I don't have you on the internet, but I sense. Am I echoing on? You hear an
not
echo?
to us.
No, that's probably a sound problem if you're
if
hearing yourself.
You want me to keep? Okay. So what I wanted to talk about is in the debates. Like I've been watching Matt in several debates, and it's really awesome and very inspiring. Watching some of the theists, they always come back to the Bible, and no matter how philosophical the debate tries to be on the existence of God, whether you're talking about causation, God is necessary, it always starts off that way, but the theists will always come back to the Bible every time. And same with people who aren't necessarily great at debating, they're just believers, and when you try to ask why they believe, it's always the Bible. It always comes back to the Word of God. And I've heard Matt say several times that what actually got him to open his eyes and to think differently, to become a skeptic, so to speak, was his, search into the Scriptures. And I have to say I'm the same way. That's ultimately what, put the nail in the
Sure.
theistic coffin, so to speak.
That's the path for a lot of atheists.
Very
right?
much so. Very much so. And so I was just while I was waiting, watching the debate on July 19th with Blake. And when Matt brought up the Bible, at one point Blake came back and said, "Oh, we're not talking about that. We're going to, get back to does God exist yet?" We all know that it's always going to come back to God's Word.
Yeah, I just want to caution you that you have to be careful not to jump to conclusions about what a person is going to say, because they're all different. Some people, they have different tactics, at least. A lot of them, even if they are ultimately believing because of the Bible, are going to do whatever they can to dodge that issue, possibly because the Bible doesn't really have that much credibility and they realize that. And then some other people jump straight for the Bible and just say, well, I believe it because it's in the Bible. So you generally have to start out with a question like, what do you believe and why do you believe it? And then work off that.
Right. But don't you find when you're talking to people, it ultimately comes back to that? And for instance, I know people who believe in God. They'll say, I believe in a supreme being, but they don't necessarily believe in the Bible. And they're not the ones I'm worried about. It's the people who believe in the Bible and that dogma, and that's what's infiltrating into public policy that affects all of us. That to me is the problem, which is why we still have to concentrate on all those, to me, and this sounds terrible, but the Bible thumpers out there, those are the ones that want to, put up the nativity scene on the courthouse, lawn during Christmas. And it's more, I think, that, I don't know, when I watch the show, it just seems like it is the existence of God people obviously want to debate or to prove, I'll say, but it still comes back to the Bible. And I think the more Matt and all of you really use concrete examples from the Bible, like when he talks about slavery or women as second-class citizens, or, those are the things that hit home to people. When I watched the debate with Jay Lucas, the biggest response of that whole debate was when they were talking about slavery, and Jay said, well, give me an example. And Matt, in a nanosecond, said Exodus 21:20. Everybody roared.
That's a good verse to memorize. Just because, it is a good tactic to use.
Sure.
Yes.
Sure.
Well, and I think people, though, could relate, and that's the whole thing is, to me, relatability. And that's why using the Bible versus philosophical arguments, which I love, don't get me wrong, I love the whole does God exist, but I think in terms of trying to win over converts, using the Bible is in ways that people can go, oh, I never thought about it that way, like slavery. Anyway, that's what I want to say.
It's a mixed bag.
Yeah, not everybody actually believes in the Bible or is going for the Bible. A lot of them say, I'm religious, I'm spiritual, but not religious, and I believe my own, I believe God talks to me, and the Bible is just a book made by man, and I have my own ideas about God.
But that's what I was saying. Those are the ones we don't have to worry about. They're not in there trying to change public policy. We do still have to worry about that. If nothing else, we also have to worry about like Muslims who believe in the Quran. So that's still
bad
a book.
trash talking the Bible is not going to help in that case.
Well, but then I should use any word of God argument. I should have said that. If it's the Bible or the Quran, if a person just believes in a higher power, they're not going to come after you and say, well, it's because it's in the Bible that we need to get this into a public policy. That's kind of what I meant.
I think the real problem is the concept of a God that you can trade with and get goodies from. And that's where this conflict of interest that I mentioned earlier arises. Is that those folks, the folks that think they have some sort of special in with God, if only they kill the gays or if only they do whatever, right? Those are the ones that I think that are really causing the problem. And you know, some of them are beyond reach as far as arguing and talking with them, but. You know, you do have to ask, where do you get your authority? How do you know these things? And you can go after that. But I think that there is a danger of getting too deep into the Bible and what it says and these sorts of things, because ultimately a lot of atheists just don't care about it, and it's a very specialized, difficult, challenging subject. And I've certainly made a lot of mistakes as far as assuming this or that or whatever, and it's a wisp of a book in the sense that there's these stories and they go a long way without having a lot of details, and it invites a lot of interpretation, and it's just a muddled mess, and I personally prefer to stay out of it, out of the Bible.
Have you read Bart Ehrman's books like Misquoting Jesus, Forged, How Jesus Became God, are three that I've read.
Yeah, I've read some of Bart Ehrman's books, and I would never say that it's a waste of time to read that stuff, because I think in general, the more you know, the more prepared you are to deal with any argument that you come across. But at the same time, you can't just rely on the idea of diving into one particular holy book and trusting that to get you out of all situations, because people believe in all kinds of nonsense in the world. There are people who are literal-minded about many, many books. There are Hindu texts, and there are guru
revelation and all these things that people have, and it's like it's hard to argue against that.
So the best rule of thumb is to apply the principles of skepticism and do your research with the individual text as they come up. But we're out of time.
Oh, thanks so much. I really
Thank you
appreciate
for calling.
it. You guys are great. Thank you.
That's our show. We'll be at El Arroyo soon, and see you next week, maybe.
Maybe.